California sun, a legendary high alpine experience, and a lively base village. These are only a few of the characteristics that define Squaw Valley, which has been a go-to Lake Tahoe resort for years. The mountain gets a lot of things right, with a wide variety of expert terrain and some of the best spring skiing you'll find anywhere. However, a lot of the traits that give the resort its character also result in some drawbacks, so the resort may not be for everyone. The first thing you'll notice about Squaw Valley is its unique topography. Striking mountain landscapes encompass the resort, and multiple areas offer absolutely phenomenal Lake Tahoe views. The resort boasts an exceptionally high alpine footprint, with most terrain either entirely above tree line or sparsely wooded. Only a few lower elevation areas contain truly top-to-bottom, tree-defined trails. The high alpine environment affects the experience for all ability levels. Squaw's green terrain is both some of the most impressive and some of the most frustrating we've seen anywhere. The resort offers more green trails than some other Lake Tahoe mountains, with the overwhelming majority at the top of the mountain. These slopes offer some of the best views of any beginner terrain out there, but the slopes are among the most crowded and wind exposed at the resort, producing complications that those learning may not be prepared for. And if you want to go back down to the base, there aren't any green trails out from the upper mountain. So beginners will have to download the Funitel or tram to leave the resort. There's also a bunny hill and a magic carpet near the main base, but they're small and unreachable from the rest of the mountain's green runs. Intermediate terrain at Squaw tends to be on the more difficult side, with ungroomed or fairly steep sections on some trails. The best blue runs are at Shirley Lake, which holds its snow well and offers multiple options. Squaw Creek is also a really good place to hit. It's got a number of uncrowded groomers with excellent Lake Tahoe views. The easiest intermediate runs are in the Gold Coast area, but like the beginner slopes here, they're crowded and windy. Gold Coast is also where you'll find the bulk of Squaw's terrain park areas. Features range from small to large and include boxes, rails, jumps, as well as the occasional mini pipe contingent on seasonal snow quality. However, some competing resorts offer bigger and better setups. But what you'll really want to be if you're at Squaw is an advanced, or better yet, expert skier. Squaw's lack of a double black diamond rating is an anomaly. The resort offers some of the most formidable terrain you'll find anywhere. You might expect some long, steep mogul and tree runs, but the mountain pushes you to the limit with extraordinary chutes, couloirs, and cliffs, some of which are so extreme that they require mandatory air or free falls. Lines like this sheer rock face are actual runs. And this terrain isn't exclusive to one specific area. There are so many awesome expert areas, but a few that stand out are KT22, Headwall, and Granite Chief. Some expert runs require hiking to get to, but they're typically less tracked and offer fresher snow than directly lift service slopes. However, some of the most extreme runs can be found directly off the lift line. Like most Tahoe resorts, Squaw Valley generally sees strong powder, but also experiences somewhat variable conditions. Trails can have fantastic cover in some years, but might exhibit bare spots in others. The resort gets lots of sun, but this can also mean snow droughts. This resort can get icy, and on certain days may be reminiscent of Vermont. But when it snows, it dumps, and the resort can see several feet of snow with one storm. But given Squaw's modest temperatures and proximity to the lake, this accumulation tends to be on the wet and heavier side. The resort rarely gets especially cold, but wind exposure is really a Squaw trademark. Trees in some of the most affected areas have become permanently angled by the wind. Even if it's sunny outside, be prepared for the wind to blow snow in your face. Upper mountain lifts are fairly susceptible to wind holds. These variable conditions tend to affect the resort's most extreme offerings the most. If you're buying your tickets far in advance, don't bet on being able to hit the formidable Silverado and Broken Arrow areas. These are some of the resort's most extreme lower elevation runs, and they need significant snowfall to open up. Silverado is truly hard to plan for, and is really only open for a couple weeks each season. The Broken Arrow area is open a bit more consistently, but the Broken Arrow lift almost never runs, so you'll have to hike to get to the topmost terrain. Earlier season months tend to be the least consistent, and some terrain can take months to open. For your best bet at hitting the most open terrain, you'll want to come in late February or March. The resort's most critical areas do tend to stay resilient overall, thanks to early season snowmaking on a number of trails. While it might not have the most consistent winter experience, it's really hard to beat Squaw when it comes to the spring. The resort offers one of the best spring skiing experiences anywhere, consistently staying open until May, and in the best years, staying open as late as July. Not all mountain areas stay open this late in the season, of course, but a number of beginner to expert terrain options usually remain. Crowd flow at Squaw Valley is a mixed bag. Some of the problems can be attributed to the resort's overall layout. The very long intermediate mountain run trail, which is the main way back to the base for most upper mountain areas, can become so packed with ignorant skiers that it's arguably dangerous. The resort seems to agree, and signs in the Funitel recommend the run only for experienced skiers and riders. The resort has some redundancies in its lift setup, but on busy days, Squaw can experience long lines. Despite these issues, getting places at Squaw tends to be fairly direct overall. Getting to and from the furthest mountain areas can take a couple of lifts, but they're pretty easy to find, and some really great terrain exists right off the base lifts. Flat terrain isn't really a major problem at Squaw, but there are a couple of catwalks you'll have to push to get out of. Signage is generally pretty good, but while trail maps are posted near most major lifts, not all of them are easily accessible or readable. But it's hard to really end up in the wrong spot, as each lift carries a difficulty rating that generally corresponds to the terrain level it serves. When it comes to lifts themselves, Squaw's setup is competitive overall. High-speed lift service holds down most high alpine areas, although some of them run slower than you might expect due to the perennial wind conditions. None of Squaw's chairlifts have bubbles, but the Funitel's unique dual cable support system gives that enclosed lift extra wind stability. The biggest annoyance with Squaw's uphill experience comes from the below treeline Squaw Creek and Red Dog chairs, which are slow, fixed grip triple chairs that are really overdue for upgrades. Like trams at other resorts, Squaw Valley's cable car is not overly useful as a method of getting up the mountain. The tram follows essentially the same line as the Funitel, and while it ends up slightly higher up on the mountain, the 10-minute headway diminishes its practicality. And even if the tram car is just arriving, you can't just walk up to it. Instead, you have to take an elevator to get up to the base station. Squaw Valley has plenty of capacity if you're looking to go in for a break. There are only 2 mid-mountain lodges, but they're quite large with a number of dining options. The resort's expansive main base area offers an array of facilities with plenty of seating even during peak times, while the Squaw Creek satellite base also offers public dining and bathroom facilities. It's worth noting that a Squaw Valley ticket will also get you access to Alpine Meadows, a separate area a few miles down the road. The two areas are connected by a free shuttle service, and a gondola connecting the areas is on track for completion next season. So Squaw's inconsistent snow conditions hurt its practicality when planning a months in advance ski vacation. But the resort delivers on some of the most extreme terrain you'll find anywhere in North America, at a reasonable driving distance from a number of California and Nevada cities. Lift ticket prices have been inching up in recent years, with one-day tickets now costing up to $200 on weekends. Beginners and intermediates may find better options elsewhere. However, for seasoned skiers and boarders, the overall combination of terrain, aesthetic, and just sheer footprint is going to be hard to beat anywhere else.